You should do the intro, McKenna.
Because I have a higher voice.
Yeah.
Time to get moving. It's Flashback 64.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that ripped. That was great.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I am Gooey, joined by my co-host McKenna.
Hello.
Hello. And we are joined by two returning guests. We've got my brother Michael, aka Golly Rogers. Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
And we've got our pal Jay, aka IdolismJ.
Yo,
what's up?
Back.
Glad to have you back, both back so soon. Really, it's been a quick trip. Really, quick trip back.
Because Michael's your brother. In chat, I read his name as Gooey Rogers.
That's funny.
They're both gooey.
Yeah, we're both a little gooey sometimes.
We at one point at a place we live, my friends would call him Brother Goo.
Yeah, which was funny. It almost seemed like you should have been like,
I should be Brother Goo. Yeah.
Fun
We
fact.
should have had something
or
entirely
ordained
different.
ministers. That really solves the question there.
Fun fact. We both have a brother named Michael.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say Goo. You got to meet.
That means we have to fight.
Yeah.
Michael, your odds aren't good. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna win now.
Your brother's quite athletic. He plays soccer, actually. Speaking of,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, he's
We're a soccer family.
I
yeah.
chipped a tooth during chess once, so
McKenna has a soccer family, and then we're like indoor. We're indoor people. Me and Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we don't have since you're both back, we don't have a lot up top to really get into. But I did want to say thanks to everyone who bought some merch, bought a shirt. Jay, it looked great on you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I
I agree. It looks great on me.
Yeah, it's cool. A handful of people bought some and sent us some pictures, so that's cool. Glad that worked out. And also thanks to people who signed up on Patreon when we launched that, which includes Michael. So thanks to you.
yeah. Thanks, Michael. You're welcome.
We've got all kinds of benefactors here on the show too. We appreciate. Oh,
Yeah.
someone emailed us too, by the way, which we're gonna respond. If you were the person who emailed us, you know who you are. We're crafting up an excellent response to you.
Yeah.
We got two games again to cover, so why don't we just get right into it and flash back. We're catching back up from March 5th. The two games we're talking about today came out on March 17th and March 24th, 1997, where Wannabe by Spice Girls ends its month-long reign as it's overtaken by Can't Nobody Hold Me Down by Puff Daddy featuring Mace. But I have some other songs that are in the top 5. The newcomer to the list is In My Bed by Drew Hill, which is quite a nice slow jam. Top albums include the soundtrack to Howard Stern's Private Parts, the movie, which, just jumping ahead, is one of the highest grossing films of the time, one of the weekends. We are also joined by the album Pop by U2 and The Untouchable by Scarface. Howard Stern's Private Parts was it actually interrupted there was a run where A New Hope was the highest grossing film, then Empire Strikes Back. Then now in this time period, Howard Stern slips in with Private Parts.
It's my favorite Star Wars film. I just got to say.
Episode, it's something else that's going on between some of the movies.
And they, I mean, there's a reason why they made the extended universe non-canon after Howard Stern showed up.
What did you think? We watched the movie. What did you think of the movie? What's your quick take on it?
It was something.
It's
I don't know.
interesting. That's a whole different. It feels like a different world, not like '90s shock jock
Yeah.
era. Yeah, it was
interesting scenes.
interesting scenes. Yeah.
Like a speaker, the one where he's having sex with the woman over the radio.
Cheese.
That's
Yeah.
like the most. I don't know why that was like the standout scene.
Because it was the
There are a
hottest.
few other.
Once he wanted me to approve a contest where he would give a new toilet to the listener with the largest bowel movement on the air. I mean, you can imagine the logistics of that.
But Star Wars comes back. The special edition of Return of the Jedi takes the top spot the following weekend. And then right before Blast Corps comes out, Liar Liar, starring Jim Carrey, is the
Now
number
we're
one
talking.
movie. Yeah.
Private Parts and Liar Liar definitely seem of the same era.
Yeah, sure. I would say Liar Liar is a little bit more. It's a little more broad of appeal.
Yeah.
A little more acceptable
Sure.
by any given social norm.
And that movie was a powerhouse, as we'll talk about in upcoming episodes, because it stays on top for quite a while. We have some pretty big notable games released at the time. We had Castlevania Symphony of the Night came out. Sick. And,
yeah.
Nice.
and Tekken 3.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, what I love
PlayStation
Tekken.
owners were eating that week.
Yeah, they were actually, it wasn't doing much for the N64 cause, it doesn't seem. Because I think the last episode we had Final Fantasy VII. So it's like looking kind of dire if you're looking at FIFA 64 and you're like, this is what is competing, you know? Let's see, other notable events. March 4th. We talked about in the last episode, they cloned the sheep. Okay, so on Dolly. March 4th, Bill Clinton bans federal funding for any research on human cloning. March 10th, Buffy the Vampire Slayer premieres on WV Television Network. That's one of your favorite shows.
Yeah.
March 22nd, the comet Hale-Bopp. Hale-Bopp? How do you say it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't remember. The Hale-Bopp comet makes its closest approach to Earth. Also related to that, over the course of time from March 24th to 26th, that's when the Heaven's Gate cult, they had like a mass suicide ritual at their compound because I believe they were going to go ride on the comet itself.
Riding on a comet for the rest of your life after death sounds pretty like awesome though.
Yeah, but what's even more awesome is being the one guy who maintains their website though.
Yeah.
Right.
So shout out
You can
to
still email too.
shout out to that guy, I guess.
How are they doing, Send? Haven't heard back, but I assume it's going great. Reply.
Pretty weird thing to contrast that. Also, on that weekend was WrestleMania 13. So since Jay's back, we can do a little wrestling.
Yeah. In my mind, I was already like, which one's WrestleMania 13?
Well, that's the one. It's in Chicago, and that is I think the most notable matches when Stone Cold Steve Austin had the submission match against Bret the Hitman Hart,
It's that one.
where he did not give up.
Bret Hart says he beat me to a bloody pulp. That's the biggest bunch of BS I ever heard because I knocked the hell out of my head on a guardrail. Bret Hart, you didn't do a damn thing. You're the biggest piece of trash I've ever met in my life.
There's some good stuff on it, but that's definitely the standout. And in the week, I was talking in the last episode about how they're starting to move their chess pieces into the Attitude Era, and the week leading up to that is when they premiered the new video package of the intro of the show that people associate with the Attitude Era, where it's like, you know, explosions and people fighting and
incomprehensible lyrics to this day. No one knows what that It's like, buddy, what? Speak into the microphone. I'm pulling up the card for 13 right now.
Yeah.
I know I've seen this WrestleMania. I don't know why I don't remember it. Looking at the card, I'm like, yeah, of course I would never remember this.
There was Ahmed Johnson.
Owen Hart and the British Bulldog versus Mankind and Vader ending in a double countout on WrestleMania. Yeah, of course I wouldn't remember that. It's
Yeah,
like,
even
the one match I remember from this Mania that isn't like the iconic Bret Hart and Stone Cold one is that the Mania where The Rock defeated Rikishi when he was the Sultan? And it was.
Yes, yeah, and The Rock's dad came out.
Yeah, that's the only other thing to remember from this.
They're still trying to get The Rock over as like you know,
Oh,
the
I
all-American
yeah.
babyface.
I will say the Ahmed Johnson Legion of Doom versus Nation of Domination Chicago Street Fight. That one was fun.
It was
'Cause-
sick because
yeah,
it's
that
Chicago. You've got the Legion of Doom, and they came out. Ahmed Johnson had their spiked football pads. So yeah, that was good. That's a good like WrestleMania thing.
Always down for Ahmed Johnson doing wacky shit.
WCW's got Sting. I think he came down from the rafters now. Like came down in those little bungee cord thing. So that was sick.
Starcade would have been around that time.
That's I think in December. There was one. It was uncensored. WCW Uncensored. Dennis Rodman officially joined the NWO. That was kind of the biggest.
Yeah. Woo.
This is a big week for him.
Yeah, I wanted
Weekend.
to say that Dennis Rodman in like our life has been like Forrest Gump, where he's just showing up in everything. But I guess you can't really say that about someone who's like a big celebrity. But it's just funny that he's
He's
everywhere.
like in multiple spaces though.
They talked about him a lot, and he was at the Oscars, which also happened the same weekend as WrestleMania.
We are coming to you from the Shrine, the only theater in America not showing one of the Star Wars movies.
The 69th Oscars, hosted by Billy Crystal, because who else would host it?
Right.
During the event, the DVD format was launched in the United States. I don't think we caught that in the clips we watched, but DVDs are coming out.
They're here.
Yay.
Whoa.
There was a couple things that like I remember Billy Crystal was like talking about that seemed very like prescient to now. One was he was talking about like using dead actors' likenesses.
Oh yeah.
And how that is potentially scary because they had those Fred Astaire like vacuum commercials. They also had a speech where the head of the Academy was like, "Please don't stop going to movies." So it just feels like I guess we're kind of doing the same thing now, but
Time's a flat circle.
yeah, everyone's worried about the same stuff. A lot of things I just noticed watching that too that we've started to see and everything is like everyone's like, we got a website now.
Oh God, that's right. We're in the prime years before the .com bubble burst.
Yeah, we're leading up to that. The most nominations of the night was for the movie The English Patient. I don't know if anyone here is big English Patient fans.
I can't even say that
I have no idea.
It got 12 nominations. We watched it. It is kind of your classic, like it's like an epic romance type movie.
The you know tragic romance
tragic
kind
of thing. They're
Oscar
Lord bait.
And some, those highbrow actors.
Yeah, Ray Fiennes, Willem Dafoe. Who else was in it?
Colin Firth.
Juliette
Binoche.
Binoche, she won an award for Best Supporting Actress. So shout out to her. We also actually watched, there was a Seinfeld episode that came out the same time that was all about well, not all about it, but there was one of the plots was that Elaine like really hated the movie, but like everyone else was like, oh, you gotta see The English Patient, and her like boss makes her go see it with him.
He's gonna fire you?
Well, the only way I could talk him out of it was that I agreed to go and visit the Tunisian desert.
Tunisia?
That's where they filmed the movie. It's supposed to inspire me.
Well, that doesn't sound so bad.
I have to live in a cave.
Oh.
Let's see. So that was 12 nominations, won 9 of them, and then there were 2 films that got 7 awards. My personal favorite of the crew was Fargo, got 7 nominations, 1, 2. You also had the movie Shine with 7. Jeffrey Rush from Shine won Best Leading Actor. Frances McDormand for Fargo won Best Actress, so shout out to her. Cuba Gooding Jr. for Jerry Maguire in Best Supporting. So, I think they picked well there. It was definitely a little bit like we watched some of the speeches and it was like endless praise for The English Patient, which even though I liked the movie, I was like, okay, let's calm down.
You heard that song every 5
the song
seconds.
Yeah, they had a kind of a hard on for The English Patient for sure. Yeah, other than that, we're all caught up. Why don't we go into the games And McKenna, you can tell us about FIFA Soccer 64.
FIFA Soccer 64 is a soccer simulation game notable for its more realistic gameplay in comparison to the many more arcade-style sports games on the Nintendo 64 at the time. Game modes include friendly, league, tournament, and playoffs. You can play a single match and choose from over 150 teams in a friendly. League mode allows you to play through a full season, controlling up to 8 teams. Tournament mode lets you play in a World Cup format, and the playoffs mode is the elimination stage of tournament play. You also have the option of simulation, action, or arcade mode. Playing in simulation mode gives players stats representative of their real-life counterparts, while playing in action mode exaggerates these skills, and arcade mode levels the playing field, giving all teams equal strengths. There are 8 different camera angles, as well as a picture-in-picture option, and you can hear the crowd cheering and horns blaring around you in the first Nintendo 64 title to use Dolby surround sound.
Whoa. You can hear the vuvuzelas blaring.
They would not stop going.
The first N64 game that lets you experience just how annoying Europeans are.
Wow, it's like I'm really there. Before we actually talk about the game itself, I want to know is Jay, are you into footy? Are you into soccer?
I used to play it when I was young, but
cool.
as far as actually watching the sport, it is the one sport I almost entirely do not watch.
Okay.
So, like, I know who Messi is, and that is maybe the extent of it.
Okay, sure. Michael, how about you?
I think there was a very short time that I did like indoor soccer, but it wasn't for very long. Other than that, I haven't watched much of it. No.
Yeah, same. I mean, like you went to a different middle school and high school, which I think actually had soccer, but like where I was going, there wasn't even. No one even thought about it.
Yeah,
so.
I think I went to like a YMCA for like indoor soccer or something for a bit.
Well, that's okay because we have a certified soccer expert here.
Oh,
this is finally McKenna's time to shine.
Yeah, I guess. I played soccer for 10 years. My whole family played soccer. I've played indoor and outdoor leagues.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot.
But
I don't watch a lot of
family,
sports in general. Yeah, I would watch. Like, my dad would put on soccer games a lot, so I'd see them. But I just don't watch a lot of sports on TV in general. I'd rather actually go to a game. I think that's more fun. I used to go.
Yeah, I would see that.
Yeah.
I watched like all of my brother played in high school and college, and his college was like 3 hours away, and we went almost every weekend in the fall to watch his soccer games.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just saw a 6-year-old soccer game recently.
Yeah.
We saw our friend's daughter play, which is pretty awesome. What about soccer video games? I guess do any of you guys have like soccer games that you're big fans of?
Virtua Striker 2 for the Dreamcast. And I've heard I enjoyed it because I was like, it's during Dreamcast era, I was probably only a year or so removed from actually playing soccer. So I was like, this is enjoyable. I've heard that game is like really bad in terms of when it comes to like actually like being a good soccer game for whatever the Europeans decide is a good soccer game. But I don't know.
Oh man, I love Rayman Legends Soccer.
Oh yeah, that was pretty fun. That's
it's not really a soccer, but
that is kind of a fun.
You said that statement, and I was like, "Is Michael pulling my fucking leg? Is that real?"
It's like a game mode in Rayman Legends.
It's kind of like
it sounds like a Super Monkey Ball kind of thing. Like it's just like we threw another sport at Super Monkey Ball, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
Check it out.
It's like, what else can Rayman do? Yeah, I haven't really played many myself. Like, I definitely remember playing some as a kid on like Fred's I think even maybe a Dreamcast game once, but like nothing that stuck with me other than like I played more extensively some of like the Mario Strikers stuff, if that's even, is that soccer?
I'd say that's probably my most experience with like actual soccer games.
Rocket League is basically
Rocket League.
Soccer.
Oh,
I haven't played it, but
yeah,
That's a pretty faithful adaptation of soccer, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've
like-
played quite a bit of Rocket League, so
Well, when you were
I
growing up, did you like get into soccer games? No.
I
Okay.
I didn't really get into any sports video game. Well, I played some of the backyard sports games.
Okay.
I don't remember if I played the soccer one. I definitely remember playing backyard baseball and basketball.
did any Wii Sports have soccer in it?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Nope.
no.
Like-
I don't know if
That would be kind of
Resort,
hard to
maybe.
do.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how you do
Strap it to your
that.
leg and
Well, that's what Wii Sports Resort did. They had you strapping stuff to your leg, or maybe
Did
I'm
they
thinking
really?
of Wii Fit. I
don't-
might be thinking of Wii Fit.
I don't want to
Well, you
strap
had the
things
Wii
to my
Fit
leg when I'm
board.
gaming.
Should play we ski and snowboard. We get on the Wii Fit board.
yeah.
I loved those.
Oh yeah.
What about this game though? So Michael, it sounds like you got a chance to like actually play the game. I don't know. I said it wasn't really required, but if you wanted to check it out, you know.
Yeah, well, I did decide to check it out a little bit, and it immediately like horns blaring.
Yeah, it's very annoying.
It really, I don't know. I don't have too much to say about it. It was kind of okay or not great, not that great. It felt really hard, but I don't know if that's just because of my inexperience with soccer games. But it felt like the whatever robot team I was facing, they had like the calculations down.
Did you play against Germany?
Maybe I played against Germany. I think
So-
I might have played against Germany.
Okay, overall, well, Jay, did you get to play the game at all?
I did not.
Okay,
To peek behind the curtain, I was a bit of a late addition to replace someone on this episode, and so I focused on the other game we're talking about today.
That's
and I
totally
did not
fine.
get to this one.
I just didn't want to move past it before, I didn't want to discount your thoughts, but I overall, before we touch on what you were saying, Michael, anymore, the strongest thing I suspect about this game is that it they didn't finish making it. Like, I don't know. I don't know anything about making games, but like there was just so many things that was like either that or like the cartridge that I had, it was like a duplicate that isn't right or something, because
it felt while playing. It felt like every like pass I did was intercepted by like.
okay. Okay, so the reason I was gonna say that, because it sounds like you played Germany, and when you go into the friendly mode, it gives you an option to like pick the teams, but I could not get. I tried every button. I read the manual front to back. I could not change what the second player team was in the friendly mode. I could not figure it out. So no matter what, if you do a friendly match, we're playing against Germany. What else? Oh,
Well, the other thing is that I was looking at Nintendo Power, and it like shows where all the teams are ranked.
Yes.
And this Germany is the second best international team. So unless you're playing as Brazil, you're playing as a team that is worse than them.
And not only that, you could have been like, it could have been your. Do you know what control style you picked?
Gosh, I honestly I don't remember, to be honest.
Because there's like simple and complex, and then there's like 3 levels of difficulty, and like on one of them, like you have to like be really precise with your passes, like whereas like on the simpler ones, it'll kind of direct them better apparently. So like but like the game does not really communicate any of this well, or like what's going on.
No, I felt very confused when playing it, and like I didn't understand any controls because it didn't really explain much.
Yeah. I mean, even we read the manual, and it was even still
it has
like
pages of controls.
It has pages of controls, and as you read all the feature, like the game has like on paper a lot of features, but like none of them like are like really that well implemented, I don't think.
Yeah.
And like as far as like the game feeling incomplete, like the halves would end at random times. It would never be like 4 minutes on the dot, and there was no indication like why are we going over, and then sometimes the game would end at like 8 minutes and 17 seconds. It's like the game's over. I'm like, wow. There's never like, you could never tell when the game was gonna end. Like, I don't know if like that's how it always is. I think I watched some videos.
I did tell you that they do kind of incorporate stoppage time.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell you.
It doesn't. So... Yeah, it doesn't give you any.
It's really confusing
explanation of it.
And then I was trying to seek out more information like about the game apart from like the manual and Nintendo Power, because those that's just like they're telling you what they want to tell you. So I was like, maybe someone has like a good explainer, but no one talks about this game because like only a few months later comes another soccer game that is the International Superstar Soccer that is considered great. And I think it just totally like this game, even in Nintendo Power we were reading, and they're like, and if you're a fan of soccer, like this other soccer game's coming out. So I think this game was like instantly just forgotten. Like no one talks about it. So it's kind of hard to even like, you know, some games that I struggle with, I'll find like people talking about it, but I couldn't even get like good information online about it. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, I did find like I found like an overview of it that kind of explained all the game modes, and then the writer was talking about actually playing, and it definitely captured some of the same feelings that I had about it. I think you too, where it was like the controls often felt unresponsive or delayed, or like I would go to steal the ball from someone and I'd be pressing B, which is also shoot. So like I would think that I didn't have the ball yet, and then suddenly I did, but I was still pressing B to try and steal it, and I would just immediately shoot, and it's like, oh, I don't have the ball anymore.
You lose control of it. Yeah. Yeah, like every other game we've played, like, well, they're more arcade, but like Wayne Gretzky or NBA Hang Time, like steal or whatever is the same button as pass. So at least if you get it, you don't accidentally freaking shoot it across the court, you know? You might pass it to someone nearby. I was constantly bunting it down the court or whatever. Punting it, I should say. But, I mean, all that being said, it's, like, kind of fun to just, like, as a novelty to play some soccer. And, like, we were playing together. Yeah, it was fun, but...
This is actually interesting timing because I think, like, EA just recently, like, their license for the FIFA brand is like, done.
Oh. So
any future sequels now to FIFA... is not going to carry the FIFA title.
So someone could make a FIFA Soccer 64 too?
Well, I think FIFA still owns the brand.
They
just can't. Any new EA soccer games aren't going to fall under the FIFA brand.
I see. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more. I feel like I'd rather mostly move on, but I will say, like, as I was saying, like, we played together and it was fun. I played like a round against our buddy Connor, and it was fairly fun. Like, it's just like it doesn't really, like, compared to Wayne Gretzky, where I'm like, oh, I do want to do like the tournament mode and keep playing through. Like, this is like I played a couple games tournament mode and won a few, and I was like, okay, I mean, I don't really want to play it anymore.
Like, it's almost fun game.
Yeah.
Like, it needed a little more time to cook.
Yeah. Like
and it could have been a really fun game. It made me want to play another game, which I introduced to you.
Oh yeah.
We played this like Pixel Cup soccer game, which is a newer indie
that was
game.
fun.
And it's, it plays pretty similarly, but it all works really well.
And you could get the idea of like, okay, I want to try to lob it now, because that was the thing too, is I often felt like in this game I would be trying to shoot or pass, and like I'd hit the button and it wouldn't happen. Like the timing, it wouldn't happen like as quick as I thought it would. So I thought, was it a situation where like, oh, do I have to like hold it and let go to, kind of like in the one game you can do that to sort of kick it farther or lob it, but that wasn't the case at all. It just had a weird, you like hit the button and it began the animation of them kicking it. So it was a little, I don't know, a little weird, but sort of fun and amusing. But I think it's probably the worst game we've covered so far, just from like a technical perspective. But I don't want to linger on it, because we have a really cool game to talk about, and we have a cool soccer game coming later that we'll probably dive deeper in on. So let's move on from FIFA Soccer 64 and talk about what we really came here to talk about. Tell us about Blast Corps.
Blast Corps is an action game in which you take control of various vehicles, robotic suits, and occasionally a boat, train, or crane to destroy buildings and clear the path for a rogue nuclear missile carrier locked onto the most direct route to its destination. You'll receive commendations for clearing the path, destroying more buildings, and rescuing survivors. These commendations give you rank points, and every 12 rank points gets you a promotion, from Rookie Wrecker to Demolition Fanatic, and all the way up to, you can stop now. Clear all the levels on Earth, and you'll be able to launch yourself to the moon, and then to Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Neptune, where you'll be able to complete levels with varying degrees of gravity.
I wanted to ask Michael first, because when you said it was one of the games you'd be interested in, I usually am like I almost feel like I expect the games I know you're gonna say, because a lot of them we played together, but I don't recall. I personally don't remember. I don't think I knew this game existed until somewhat recently.
So actually, the first time I played this game was in 2015, because the Rare Replay collection came out on Xbox One, and that was one of the games included. So I had played it then, and I really liked it. And once I heard you were getting to Blast Corps, I decided to boot up my Xbox again and play some of it.
Awesome. Jay, how about you? Are you a longtime fan, or when did you? What's your Blast Corps journey?
It might be probably among like the first 10 N64 games I ever played. Really?
Okay, sweet.
Because if I'm remembering correctly, and this is a long time ago, before I got the N64, it was either my aunt or my uncle brought it over for like an extended, week-long Christmas vacation, because they were from California, and that's where I first played a lot of the N64 games.
Yeah.
Primarily, I know that like Banjo-Kazooie was in that list, because I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. Because my aunt would be telling me about Banjo-Kazooie, and I'm like, oh, this is playing, and this is the wildest thing ever. So I remember playing it when I was like pretty young, and when the game was pretty fresh. And I have so many thoughts about this game, because I think it is really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's very unique. This is the first Rare game for N64 that they made like for it. Right. Obviously, Killer Instinct Gold was a port. So that's interesting, but this was your first time playing it as well. Well, what was your like initial like impression of the game?
I just immediately thought it was really fun.
Yeah. It is cool. It's very like it's like arcadey in the sense that you just kind of get in and just start smashing stuff. And like I like that, similar to like how we were talking in Turok. Like we kind of read some of there's like a little lore explainer, but really like they just thought, it seems like first and foremost, like, yeah, this game's just about like smashing buildings.
It's
And
kinda,
One of the things I think is really interesting off the cuff is like the pitch for this game is kind of darkly serious.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
It's like, hey, the truck holding nukes has gone off course. Like, they can't control it. We need to destroy buildings to like get this to a safe detonation site so people don't die. And I remember either like Nintendo Power or some other Nintendo affiliated thing had like a comic about it. And I remember I was like a comic from like the perspective of like an older man who's in like one of the like southern gulches or something, and he's just like, fire and brimstone is coming to the gulch, like we have to do something about this. Like there's a serious tone to it, and then you boot up the game and it's like, did you know you can use a robot to destroy buildings?
It's like
what I find really funny about that concept is like, yeah, your objective is to destroy all the buildings in the way of the machine of the vehicle so it doesn't blow up, and they pay you money to do that, but then they also like are totally okay and will pay you to blow up, to like destroy all the unnecessary to destroy buildings as well.
They're like, yeah, nice, while you're there.
just level the whole place.
I think there's like the flimsiest of justification for that, because that's one of the things is like, yeah, you can like, there's the critical path that you need to blow up, and then there's the rest of the buildings you can blow up, and you can get survivors from those buildings. And it's like, okay, well, what are they survivors of?
Yeah, like, shouldn't we evacuate them before we like destroy their homes?
Yeah, and so I think the justification is that like they're hiding in the buildings because the tanker is leaking radiation. Like that's part of the plot, is this leaking radiation, and that's why you go around and you activate the little spotlight guys, because those are the radiation diffusal units. So I think that's like the flimsy justification, and even then, that's like there's nothing there. That's like, it's not even a justification.
Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, like you mentioned the comic that was over, like it was like in like 3 Nintendo Powers. They had like a 3-part comic, and some of the other dark things was they had like, there was like one character who was in a wheelchair and it was very serious, and there's another guy who's like the military like arrests him, like a scientist or a doctor or something. They arrest him, and there's like a whole subplot where they have to like free this guy who's become like a political prisoner, it seems. Yeah, very weird. I know, like I was watching when they developed it, they knew they wanted to like have you destroy buildings, and they're like, and then they knew they wanted like an object that moves from point A to point B that you have to clear a path for, and they're like, what do we do? And that's what they came up with, which I love. It
feels very like Nintendo policy, like the gameplay first, story second. Yeah,
exactly. I'm all for that. If the game is like really fun, like it almost is better if the story is justified around whatever the gameplay is. What were some of your favorite types of levels?
I liked a lot. I like switching between vehicles, so being able to like both drive something around and use one of the suits.
Yeah. Personal favorite?
I love the what level or
just
vehicle
in general, vehicle level.
I did like, God, which one? The one that you drift in, even though it was really
It's
hard
so
to
hard.
control. I just
Backlash.
like we've had some games.
I was gonna be like, damn, if McKenna says the backlash, she's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, no way.
I feel like it's just like such a huge contrast to some of the other games where I've just felt frustrated and then just been like, oh, I don't want to do this. To where here I'm like, okay, I keep messing up, but I'm also having a lot of fun.
The backlash is really fun. It just is. It's
I feel like
hard.
we had very different. Like when I was messing up, I was like laughing about it.
And
you were
it was
you were
making
just
me
like
so mad. but I was having fun.
The backlash frustrated me like it's so much.
Well, what was your favorite thing to drive?
Honestly, I any of like the robots. Like I loved J-Bomb. He was great. J-Bomb was great. Thunder Fist was awesome. Cyclone Suit, pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely liked any of the robots. I agree. I liked that was another one we watched like a little making of thing, and they were talking about the Thunder Fist. They're like, oh yeah, we were designing that, and it only has one arm because we ran out of polygons. So we're like, you know what? It only has one arm. It's got one big fist. Jay, what are your favorite things to do in the game? Your favorite levels or
it's weird because I don't know how to like parse that question because like the levels are so different in the game and they're all different for very different reasons. So I'll put it this way. My favorite levels are the ones where after you're done, you go explore and it's almost like surreal and creepy and mystifying because you don't know what the hell you're going to find. Because you can sometimes find shit that is just unexplainable.
Yes.
Like there's a very like palpable tension in exploring some of these levels because it's like, okay, here's the J-Bomb. What if you just spent the next 30 seconds flying over a body of water and then you found mirrored balls there?
Yeah.
Or like it's the one level where you start with the train and the ram dozer and you can blow up the entrance behind the train and go back that way. I'm like, oh cool, I'm gonna go do that. And then I like was legitimately like jump scared when there was the gigantic Easter Island head.
Yeah.
That level is the level where you have to push the bombs into the buildings, right? Is that
it's probably one of them.
I think so. I think that's the one where you push the
like you ride the train and then you push the bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was on that train for so many times.
Yes, so the secrets are an interesting thing about this because like it's a thing where it adds so much like to the game where I want to kind of go back eventually and do more because I really didn't explore a lot, and I imagine this being like, I don't know, a lot of games I talk about like Turok where okay, I got through. Well, actually, we didn't finish the game because one level is really freaking hard, I think. But anyway, we mostly got through it, and I'm like, someday I'll probably play it again and like get more in depth because I was looking at some of these secrets and they were truly bizarre and cool, I thought. But the main reason I didn't look for them is because I never thought to, because in every level I was so stressed out about like destroying everything on time and not blowing up, and by the time it was like path cleared, I'm like, okay, now I got to get the hell out of here, and I just immediately like ran for the truck, even though I didn't think like, oh, it's safe now. Like I never felt like a sense of like calmness where I was like, oh, let's go explore. I was always like, I gotta get the hell out of here. You didn't really find much stuff either.
No, I think the one time I did do any exploring was like, okay, I messed up and I know I can't finish. Like I think you would immediately quit the level if you knew
I'm
you
like,
were gonna
restart.
fail,
I gotta do it again.
But I would be like roaming around, like, what's going on around here?
Mm-hmm. My favorite vehicle to drive was the train. I loved that one level Michael was referring to where I had to do it a million times, and every time that was the only time I felt at peace like playing the game, because it's all I can do is just drive the train and the camera angle's changing. It's beautiful.
It's a very serene train ride that happens right before one of the most frustrating moments for me in this game.
No, the most frustrating moment is the Oyster Harbor.
Oyster Harbor.
I was
gonna say, because I only played this off of like a fat weekend or so. I played like all the levels, and then I was like, okay, like the last level is Oyster Harbor. Not doing it.
Yeah.
Not today. Not today, Satan.
We tried it a million times and couldn't do it, and I think
We had like stages of it where we were like, okay, this part we can't figure out, and then we get past that part and it'd be like, oh, this is the easy part.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
the crane was such a pain in the butt for us.
Yeah.
I feel like this was a really fun game, but I feel like, immediately after the easy levels, a big difficulty curve hits.
I totally agree. Like, this game is really fun until it isn't.
Well, I think like it depends. Like you talked about the backlash. Like, there's a really much harder end game backlash level, and I feel like that it was just like I kept failing it over and over, but driving it was a lot of fun. So like I probably played it a million times, and like on that specific level didn't get too frustrated comparatively. But then the Oyster Harbor thing was just like I couldn't even begin to grasp how I was not blowing up the bridge with the crane, So I kind of was like, I just need to.
Oh yeah, I remember when I finally got past the crane. I went through, and you have to push these blocks into
the holes in the ground.
But there's one that you have to push so you can go back
and get other blocks.
And get other ones, and I didn't know that, so I was just like, oh no, I can't finish the level. And then I tried it again, and I couldn't get the crane to work.
Then yeah, you're like, I wish I could save state after the crane or something, right?
The backlash actually frustrated me a lot more than it should have, because for a while I was trying to manually swing my way back towards things before I realized that there's just a button that makes it easier to do.
Oh,
so
you want to know that.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I've never caught that. I didn't know that whatsoever. So
it's still hard to do, but the button makes it significantly easier.
What do you press to automatically drift?
I think it was like one of the triggers, bumpers or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. You actually hit R to engage drift mode instead of swinging at it.
Yeah, I was just swinging at it.
Okay, because I was like, oh, that makes it easier. But even with drifting, I think the backlash half works at best.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if they just changed the sensitivity on it slightly, it would be perfect. Because there's times where I think I'm hitting it with the back, but it says I'm not, and I'm like, come on, that's the back of it.
Yeah. I was never able to figure out what is the actual amount of the backlash you are trying to hit a building with versus where is the building wanting to be hit? Does it want to be hit on a seam line? Because there's a couple times where the backlash would go through a building and then stop at a piece of building. I'm like, okay, so why?
Well, yeah, right. What was wrong with that part? Yeah.
I spent 30 seconds setting up this drift, and I got 75% of the way there. I don't know why they didn't do anything.
Yeah. Other than the backlash, I think most of the vehicles were pretty fine and fun. The only one that probably gave me some trouble was the side sweeper.
The side sweeper?
So because you had to drive in between buildings sometimes, and it would extend out from the side of it and smash them, but sometimes it didn't get both sides.
Yeah, we had that too.
It was weird.
It's weird because
close or something.
So the way the side swipe works is that it does more damage the further out the arms extend. But a lot of the times that you're using the side swipe, because the whole point of that vehicle is hey, we're going to give you 2 lines of buildings, go to town, and usually those lines of buildings are a little too close,
right?
Yeah,
you can't fully extend. And so for those segments, what I was doing is I'd kind of do it a little early, so it was fully extended by the time I got to the building, and that would destroy it.
Oh, that's a good strat.
Yeah, because if once you're inside the bowling alley of buildings, they don't go far enough to actually knock the buildings down sometimes.
Yeah, a level that really frustrated me was one with the side swipe, and you had to go through a bunch of seemingly residential areas, just destroying lines and lines of buildings.
I
those.
think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, you did that one a
I did
lot.
that one, yeah.
But I do like the sheer like variety of it all. Like there's, you can unlock all those. You can find all the secrets you mentioned, and like also play like, oh, here's one where you have to race the bulldozer. Like that was cool. That like they really like did. I think they did a lot with like the different types of vehicles. Like when I started playing, I was like, okay, like how much am I really gonna do with just a bulldozer? Like how cool could that be? But I feel like they always usually found like pretty creative ways to use them. Not every level was a hit, but just the sheer variety and the amount of levels made it pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that because I think that's one of like the really interesting things about the design of this game is that like the reason there's so many backlash levels is because the backlash is the vehicle you can have the most amount of design ideas with. And so like because it's the most like it's the one with the most like challenge. Like here's a different configuration of terrain and buildings. How are you going to drift through it? Whereas the Ram Dozer is like, okay, what's the challenge? I'm going to drive directly into this thing. And so all of the sheer amount of like little side missions you get in this game all benefit pretty much every vehicle that's not the backlash, because that allows them to be like, okay, well, maybe there isn't a whole lot of ways to create interesting destruction with the Ram Dozer. Do 4 laps of a racetrack. Yeah, you can play with it that way. Because like,
that was cool.
I think they start running out of things to do, like to meaningfully do with so many of the vehicles. Like the sideswipe gets 2-3 levels because after you've done a bowling alley of residential homes, what else are you gonna do with it?
There are actually a lot of levels, if possible, that I opted to use the backlash as if it was a Ram Dozer.
Yeah, actually, that's one minor criticism I had is some of the hard levels, like they'd give me a vehicle like, and they intend for me to use it one way, but like the most efficient thing I could do, and I had no issue, was just by running it straight into the next building and destroying them all slowly that way. Like plenty of the hard levels I completed just by doing that. And I was obviously same. I didn't get like the gold or whatever, but I was like, okay, well, I guess I can beat it that way. And I feel like that kind of lets the premise down a little bit, that you don't actually have to utilize it the way they want you to even get through the level.
Yeah, that reminds me of Oyster Bay. Like starting out, you're kind of on this like bike thing that shoots.
They want you to shoot missiles.
Yeah. And
but that's inefficient.
Yeah,
terribly.
Eventually,
inefficient.
we just figure out, okay, we're just gonna drive this thing to like the elevator and go get the
Ram Dozer.
Yeah, it was the Ram Dozer, and just use that instead. It was so much faster.
The missile car was fun, except for when you had to be very precise and quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes trying to like stop and like position yourself on like a train or a crane was a little frustrating.
It did,
and also like those missiles like never felt like they did enough damage. They're missed
out.
Yeah, right. Like you'd have to shoot like multiple. I'm like, this should just be leveling everything. It should go through multiple buildings.
Our goal is to demolish. And why is this like barely doing
this
damage?
world has great infrastructure.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I kind of found the game sort of like, it reminded me a little bit of Pilot Wings in that.
Yes, I also picked up on that. I thought the exact same thing.
It was just like but there was more vehicles and more levels, obviously. But you're kind of unlocking you're getting your certifications as you move up to the harder levels, and I thought that's really cool. Like I think that's a cool way to present like this type of game, and this like art. It felt a little bit more arcadey in that sense too, I guess, because it was just like. There's even like a Pac-Man. There's a Pac-Man level I saw in this game where you're chased. You have to like do a little Pac-Man thing. But anyway, the only thing I felt similarly to Pilot Wings, where I was like playing some of the stuff and I was like, okay, this is like mechanically fun, but I feel like I'd like to see it elaborated on more and like maybe made into like its whole game, you know? Because I loved like the one robot where you'd fly up and slam down and destroy stuff.
J-Bomb.
J-Bomb.
J-Bomb was sick,
That's
but
my favorite thing in the game.
But I feel like, you know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this would be cool if it was like, I mean, it is cool, but it would be cooler, I think, if it was like one mechanic you could do in a larger game where like, you know, you do other things as well, like combined with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I think a couple of the later levels start having you trade out vehicles because there's only so many things you can do with a single vehicle.
Yeah, totally. Which made it kind of fun in its own way too, because it became sort of like a little puzzle game.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't expecting.
It really does feel like a puzzle game at times.
How about actually some of the music we were talking about?
So good.
I think Rare always kills it with like music.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Even just on, actually more so than just the music, the vibe overall I think is still really cool while playing. Starting with being on that map of just the globe is sick, and the map's music is awesome. I think that's the best song in the game for me. But
agreed.
All the courses had really. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
I think my favorite was it was the one of the level ones where it was really bouncy, and like it had like it had like it had like the string
the banjo,
the banjo,
Simeon Acres.
That's my favorite.
Bootleg remix.
Cotton Eye
like
Joe.
It sounded like I was playing Banjo Kazooie. is what it felt like.
That reminded me of playing Killer Instinct and hearing the xylophones in the spinal level, and I was like, these sickos just love they love this stuff.
They have a type of music, yeah.
They even in we were watching one of the like making ofs, and I can't remember who did the name of the guy who did music for this. It was one of Rare's. Okay.
I don't think Grant Kirkhope did Blastcore specifically. I know he's done some Rare. But I might be wrong on that.
I thought I read it. I remember an interview where they said Grant was the musician. I hear multiple people typing, so I'll let you.
Yeah.
Graham Norgate.
Okay,
it's kind of a similarly British sounding name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could tell, like, he was saying in the one video, he's like, this is like the first game we used banjos on, and you could tell like they were stoked about banjos. Mm-hmm. I think did it start from they're like, let's do a Cotton Eye Joe knockoff song. From that to we should have a character in a game who plays banjo and his name is Banjo.
Hey, inspiration strikes anywhere.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
True.
What are some other favorite songs? I mean, you like Simeon Acres a lot. That's probably the number one.
Yeah.
There's like a something I've been thinking about for a long time, since the 90s, and I might debut it here because this is something I'm like ready to do the deep dive on, but like I'm trying to figure out what is the deal with like the genre of really weird music from the 90s platformers in general, like 64-bit era. And I like the name I've come up for is like Home Depot fusion.
Okay, yeah.
It sounds like Home Depot commercials. It's like all like kind of like sound bank horns and piano and organs. And it's like it's Diddy Kong Racing, it's Spyro the Dragon, and there's a couple other ones, and I'm like, what is this actual style of music? Like, what is this drawing from? It's like too upbeat and happy to be like elevator music, but it has the same type of like throwawayness to it. And there's a couple of those tracks in this game, and it's really evocative for me. It just screams like 90s 64-bit.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's like a warm nostalgia blanket a little bit. I think What is that? Like, I feel like a lot of like sports type games have it because they always kind of have to be like kind of upbeat, you know, upbeat but not like too in your face, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Home Depot core.
Home Depot
That's
fusion.
good.
Well, if you see a video from me in like 2 years' time, it's because I got all the research that needed done.
I think Wave Race is a little like that. It's maybe a little bit more in your face, but it's got a little bit of that like do 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 laid back sort of.
What was the one track you played? You were playing before we started.
Oh, it's like it's a little bit more ethereal. It's like,
yeah, that was
sounds like
nice.
you're floating in the clouds or whatever. Pretty cool. I don't really remember exactly what that one was. We listened to like the soundtrack on a drive, and there's like a crap load of songs. I was kind of shocked.
There's that one song that sounds like it's rips off of like the GoldenEye soundtrack.
Yeah. Yes.
There's like a very proto GoldenEye song on here.
I can't remember what song that was, but I remember thinking the same thing. But it gets like slightly like goofier than GoldenEye does for like a moment. There's like one like instrument or something that's like more in the banjo camp than GoldenEye. But I was like, oh man, this like would make a really good like, this would be good for like Gex or something.
Yeah, I think when we were listening to the soundtrack, remember you said we were like, wow, this is a lot of tracks. I think that's when we realized that the game was longer than we initially thought.
That's how we first discovered.
We're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
We can leave the planet.
Yes. We're like, oh, we gotta like, that's what I mean. I didn't even realize you could save scientists or activate towers or anything, and then that had like totally changed our perspective on the game a little bit. And like, yeah, so we didn't actually go, but I was like looking at.
That's what I do. I definitely still want to finish the game.
We have
we
to
can go to space
because it looked awesome.
It's definitely a game that like, yeah, I it feels like I want to keep going back to it and like trying to
get,
find
like,
all the little secrets stuff. And
there's quite detailed guides in Nintendo Power that we were looking at for some of them, like cool maps and stuff. That's still blowing me away that like you just get like really detailed strategy guides in this magazine. Not to be a shill for Nintendo Power here, but you know, time has passed. But yeah, definitely like, I mean, all the planets were really cool. They were just like palette swaps
Mars
of the
is
same.
red, you know.
Mars, yeah. What's the one?
Venus is green. Is that green and
yellow
or something? Definitely not what.
There's some lack of scientific accuracy.
This is the fun fact part. Well,
Fun
with the
fact.
gravity, at least.
Oh, the gravity.
They got like the gravities wrong. Like I forget which planet they were like.
Come on, Rare.
Yeah, this was like lower, but it should have been higher, or the opposite. But then they did, I guess on the planet select screen.
Oh yeah, the
they
map.
show like the planets going around the sun, and it's like
it's scientifically
it's the accurate amount of time, not like actually like years, but like to scale the. I don't know.
So like it takes it takes a minute for Earth to go around the sun, and if you see all the other planets in the background, they're moving at a proportional rate. And if you switch over to the other planets select screen, it's the same thing. So if you're on one where it takes a long time for it to go around the sun, if you leave it, like it's like an hour later, the sun starts creeping in. But you have to like leave it for a long time.
That's
so
really funny.
Because it's accurate, you can observe retrograde movement happening.
Yes.
That's so cool.
It's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
What was that in that was in there's some videos they released, it's on YouTube, on Rare's YouTube, that they put on Rare Replay that goes into this stuff. There's some pretty interesting, like that is an extra level of detail that they did not need to do. But I appreciate
like gravity. Who cares?
Who cares about the gravity?
It's rotating around the sun.
Because I think it was just an idea that like one of them had, like one guy just wanted to do it, and they're like, okay, like, and that's something I like kind of appreciate about this game as a whole, as we mentioned kind of at the top, that it really just feels like a handful of people what's like a good idea, and they're just like trying different things, you know.
Oh, robot that handsprings and backflips. You put it in the game.
They even
let's make this car do flips.
They said in the video we watched that like a lot of times they would just have their artist draw a concept, and they'd be like, if they can think about like a unique thing that it could actually do, like they would put in the games. But like the guy who was drawing it wasn't always necessarily thinking about that. He was just drawing a cool robot. So like there's one, they even have footage of it that was at like one of, I don't remember if it was on E3, but it was something like that, you know, where it was like a giant scorpion that was, they were driving around, but they're like, it didn't really do anything. So we took that one out. But yeah, basically like a guy was just drawing cool robots, and they're like, all right, we'll do that. We'll take that one, and we'll take that one. We'll take that one.
Made the scorpion tail swing around in circles.
I think there's room. They could do a blast core too. Why not?
Yeah.
I think the world is ready.
It's been long enough.
Is there anything else that we should touch upon? I feel like, I mean, it is a cool, it's not as much of a hidden gem, I guess, as like Turok. Like as I was looking into it, it's like, oh, a lot of people love this game, and I just kind of missed the boat on it. But I feel like
I think it goes above hidden gem and lands directly into like cult classic.
Cult classic, yeah. Okay,
I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, we talked about the music, but like even like some of the voice lines and sound effects were great too.
Oh. Every time I'm trying to get out of a vehicle.
Yeah. It sounds like Homer Simpson's like.
Oh yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah.
You're just trying to impress me.
Yeah.
That one.
Okay.
There were some voice lines that got me frustrated, especially when I was restarting levels and
try something else.
Try something else.
Well, that's one of the things I read.
Try my best.
I'm out here trying to make the backlash work. I'm doing exactly what you wanted.
The backlash is where I heard that the most.
Yeah, don't you dare give me that lip. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. Make the backlash better next time, R&D department.
They were saying in Nintendo Power that the dozer has like a thing you can do, like if you're pressing Z against certain buildings, it'll like, and you'll hear the noise, it'll like still destroy the building. And I was even watching a speed run where they were saying that was like an exploit, but Nintendo Power suggested
I've used that since way back in the day because I saw it in Nintendo Power, and there's a couple instances where it's useful, and I also like understand why they would make that as kind of like a oops, I got stuck somewhere.
Yeah,
and you hold Z down, it kind of blows up the buildings around you just so you can get out.
But they say also with that, they're like, but some buildings it doesn't work on, and so if you hear try something else, like that's what they're referring to, which I didn't know that until like an hour ago. But I was like, okay, that would have been good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay, any final like things you wanted to say about the game? I want to make sure everyone gets to say their piece.
It's really cool. I don't know if I like fully think it's a great game, which kind of also helps it land in cult classic.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'll just reiterate the point again here. But like, the reason the backlash shows up so much in this game is because it's the thing you can design around. It's just a kind of a shame that like the backlash is hard to control and doesn't always work.
Yeah.
It's like you'll use the backlash for a couple levels and be like, damn, I sure hope I don't have to use that too much. And then like, I'm so sorry, the rest of the game is going to show up.
Get used to it.
Because like as a kid, I was like, man, I want to play as like Thunderfist more. I want to play as J-Bomb more. I want to play as like the Ramdozer more. And now that I'm a full-grown adult and when I'm playing the game, like, okay, I get why there aren't more Thunderfist, J-Bomb, Ramdozer levels.
You're just sort
like,
of pressing A
Yeah,
to roll into stuff.
There's not a whole lot you can reiterate, like continue to iterate on those vehicles with. Whereas the Backlash is like a fucking wide plane of possibility. It's just not fun.
Yeah, even like there's like Thunder Fist and then like the other one that like does cartwheels, and it's like
I just call them Mini Fist because
why
like
are there
there's
two?
There's like one level. There's like one dedicated level where you use it, and it's just cool to see like the N64 like sputter to 6 frames per second when you cartwheel through 9 buildings.
Oh, that was part of the speed run we watched. Is you can switch the camera angle to just be on the thing carrying the missiles, and it's like you don't lose frames if you're not seeing the explosions. So like part of the speed run is to look away from what you're doing to increase the frames, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah,
that was foreshadowing for when Rare makes Donkey Kong 64. There's like a very, very similar glitch in that game.
Okay, I
think this game could do great with like a modern day sequel and dive even more into like the puzzle game aspect of it.
Yeah, I think there's room for both. I could see like a smaller scale like puzzle game, but I also think it would be cool if they made a game that like combine, like what if you had the Backlash ability, but you could also fire missiles, but you could also like do the J-Bomb move.
Oh, like they're upgrades for like a single vehicle,
like one vehicle, and like maybe they would destroy different buildings in a different way. So like you
could make like the Metroidvania of cars.
Yeah, it's just a car. You start out with the car, and then you're slowly strapping other things onto it.
Yeah.
So you have a mech.
Yeah, that would actually be awesome.
And we would give a shout out to the mechs too. That was another we've talked about 90s video game design and how a lot of it is just like, and Jay, you talked about it in your recent fighting game characters videos of just being like, ninjas are sick, like we're just throwing all that in there. Turok, they're like aliens. In this, they're like, like people love robots right now. So
wow, cool robot.
Put a cool robot in there, and they're cool robots. So mission accomplished.
Yeah.
What about you? Anything else you wanted to say about Last Core?
This might be the game I've been the most impressed by.
Okay.
Just like in terms of games I didn't know about before, and playing it for the first time was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's not one of the best games we've done, but it's like I think it's just outside like of some of my favorites, and it's one that I definitely. Well, it reminds me of, like I said, Turok, where I feel like if I had a way to play Rare Replay, well, I guess I could play on PC, couldn't I? But if I don't have an Xbox, which I think is all it's on, but I would like to one day. Maybe they could get that on the Switch or something, so I could play it again.
In the Switch's life.
Yeah, I could see this being like a game like Turok, where I revisit it again. Maybe some slightly, they have camera control in Rare Replay and stuff, and I could play it in a chill environment and not get as frustrated, But it was a good game.
Watch some beautiful, colorful explosions.
And yeah, it's a very beautiful game.
Breathe in the sound of train
There's
tracks.
So many color
over the ocean.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, more train levels too. I think if they made a sequel, more train levels.
Can we get the boat in there?
The boat. We didn't even mention the boat. Oh.
The boat's just a water train.
You're right. You're right. Thanks to both of you for coming on. Jay, you have a new video out.
I do have a new video out.
Tell people about it.
Yeah, so I make video essays on YouTube. I am IdolismJ, IDOLISMJ on YouTube. I just put out, as of this recording, so it'll be like maybe a couple weeks old by the time you hear this podcast, a video about fighting game characters and some of the more obscure, aka Japanese wrestling references that they are based upon. It's a lot of fun. If you know nothing about Japanese wrestling and combat sports, you're going to learn a ton. You're going to learn an absolutely staggering amount of information.
Yeah, what you watched it? There was like some.
Yeah,
you knew about some stuff, but there's some.
There's a couple freebies. I put a couple freebies in there, and then I get to like the real nitty gritty shit.
Well, you talk about speaking of Tekken. My favorite Tekken character is King.
Yeah,
purely because it was like exactly what I think that's where it came in. The whole like, was that where it came in? You talked about like ninjas or something like that. Like
yeah,
the very
I was talking about like, oh, it's like 90s kid thing. Everyone like we're all doodling ninjas, pirates, robots, samurais.
Yeah,
like
so that to me was the coolest thing I could imagine at the time for a fighting game character, was like a wrestler with a cheetah mask head thing. It like, and there was so much like mystique to it, because I was like, is that a mask or is that his head? Like you didn't get it. I didn't get it as a kid.
Like you think like what's going on? He has authentic growls. As a kid, you're like, is he a cheetah? Is he a wrestler with a cheetah mask? It's like, and now as an adult, you're like, oh, it's Tiger Mask. He's been around since the 60s.
When I first found out about Tiger Mask, I was like, oh, that's King. Okay. The same like revelation. Yeah. Michael, what are you doing?
I'm the Golly Rogers on Twitch and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a designated video gamer.
Designated, yeah.
Sure. I'm currently still working on this Zelda randomizer series that combines Ocarina and Majora's Mask in one game, where it's all entirely randomized.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, I currently have the first episode out on my YouTube, and I'm working on more.
I guess we should say I did write it down, but our next game we are talking about is Doom 64. So very excited to talk about that. We've dipped our toes a little bit in, and I've shown you some of the games that they released before that. So that'll be our next episode. Really looking forward to that. Again, thanks to everyone who got a shirt, who signed up for the Patreon. We have an Etsy for the shirts, and we're on Patreon, Flashback 64. Thanks to Corey and Nico for coming up with the artwork and the music for the show. You can like us, subscribe, and leave a good review wherever you're listening. If you're listening to us somewhere, do that. We're on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram now, Flashback 64. We got an email, but you can still email us. I'm happy to receive more emails. Flashback64pod@gmail.com. And we have a Discord, which is still popping off. The Discord is the place to be. We're talking about delicious foods. We're talking about wrestling. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. Thanks to everybody for listening, and we will see you when we talk about Doom 64. There's the final whistle. They're all jumping up and down in delight. That's a bad accent, but